Hi guys, Christina here, and I'm going to take you through the resources that we use for our mini unit study on British Columbia. If you're new here, we are studying Canada for the entire year, but for our social studies and geography portion, we're going province by territory across the country doing mini units. So each mini unit is kind of set up a similar way. We start with the Canada Up Close series. This is geared towards kind of 6 to 9-year-olds. And so we took kind of the chapters in here. There's 6 chapters, but one is quite short, so more like 5 chapters. And then I use resources from here. This is Apple Press's Exploring Canada's Geography series. This is geared towards grades 4 to 6. There we go. So our children are in grades 5, grade 3, grade 2, have a preschooler and a baby as well, and we do this as a family. And so I needed something that would work for multiple ages, and those were the 2 main resources I found that did that. So every province and territory is set up that way. I also have the Canadian Sights and Symbols series. There's just a few extra things in here that I wanted the kids to know and to talk about, so we're using this series as well. And then we're also using the Our Canada, Its Geographic Regions series. These are videos. And so we watched the Cordillera, I can't say that word, but that's the name of it. And these are just about 18 to 20 minute long each time. They're very up to date, 2016, and it gives a really good overview of each area. And so we watched this one for British Columbia. We also spend one day for each mini unit focusing on the First Nations in the area. We're using Donna Ward's Canada's Natives Long Ago for that. And so for this unit, we actually read about 2 different groups. We read about natives of the Pacific Coast and natives of the Plateau. And so there's short chapters in here as well with some little stories and excerpts and things like that. So we did that. And then for the last day, we actually focus on an artist from that particular area. And so for British Columbia, we studied Emily Carr. So we used Scholastic Canada's Biographies, Canadian Artists. She's right here. This was kind of a very short introduction, but it gave an overview of her life, a few pictures. I'll show you all the supplemental resources that we used in a minute, and those include a whole bunch of other books about Emily Carr and pictures of her artwork. So, but that's who we did. And then we did an art project, which I will show you at the very end what we did. Now, because of course there's a lot of overlapping between language arts and history and science and just everything when studying Canada, we did read-alouds that go along or correspond with British Columbia. So we've been using the Canadian Flyer series. So the first one we read was A Whale Tale. These are very simple little short books, but they have a lot of information. I was a little disappointed in the one that takes place in Alberta. This one was so much better. It gave a lot of details, a lot of cultural information, and it was a good story. So we used that book, and the kids really liked that. And then we also read this one, which is All Aboard, about the last spike being put in the railroad to join Canada. And again, very simple, straightforward, and this is something that the kids are able to read as well if I'm busy or I need them to start reading, and they enjoyed that one. And then for my second grader, my 7-year-old, he read this book, Flood Warning by Jacqueline Pierce, and it is about the flood of the Fraser River based in 1948. And he really liked it. Short, easy pictures. It's kind of similar to the Canadian Flyer books. So that was that one. And then he also read from this book here, Saltwater Stories. He read the second one, which was called, let me find the name of it. Oh. Which is called Storm. And this is, again, very simple read with full color pictures. But it talks about a mom and a daughter who get caught in a storm off the Strait of Georgia. And so it's talking about geography and different islands and bodies of water and such. So that was that one. Now my 7-year-old, he read a book from the Dear Canada series, Torn Apart, The Internment Diary of Mary Kobayashi. If you haven't heard of the Dear Canada series, there is lots of books about historical events all across Canada. So he read that one. My 9-year-old read another Dear Canada, A Ribbon of Shining Steel, again about the railroad, and then he also read Torn Apart as well. So those are the read alouds that they did. I'll turn the camera around here and show you their binders and what that looked like, and then I'll go through all the extra books and videos and then show you the art projects as well. Here's an overview of the binders. Because we did this family school style basically, it has to work for all the ages. So this is my preschooler who's 4 because of course she does not want to be left out. My son who is in grade 2 who is 7. My 8-year-old who's in grade 3 and my 9-year-old who's in grade 5. So I typically start with choosing the papers for here to go along each day and then add a few more in for the older children. My daughter has a sheet that kind of corresponds, just a coloring page, with what we're learning about each day. I'll show you what hers looks like. She did her own drawing there. Just something so while she's listening and we're talking, she can kind of color along with it. So I'll start with this one. Just give you an overview of what those papers from the book look like. I also put paper in for them to write notes and to draw and stuff as well. And then at the very back, there is a quiz. This one is actually about, we did part of our science. There's a map where you fill in as many cities as you can, and a quiz as well. And this is one of his note pages. So for my older son, I don't think he was having a good day that day. He colored it all black. Just to show you kind of how it differs. So most of the same, a few things are different, a few things are added in, just to make it a little more challenging, like using a grid. Let's see here, here's the quiz. This is his notes. He's been doing very colorful notes, which are great. And more notes for him. For my oldest son, quick look at what his looks like. I can give a page here. And so these pages correspond with what we were talking about that day. Again, the maps and the quizzes, and his note page is here at the back. And there you go. That's kind of an overview of their binders. So I'm going to go through the books that we also had around our home. I try and take books out on whatever we're learning about so that we just have them around, everything from board books all the way up to books for our older children. So the first one here is Native Nations of the Arctic and Subarctic. I'll give you a quick look what it looks like inside. Oh. Very straightforward with pictures in it. So I also have some other Dear Canada books. An Ocean Apart, and Where the River Takes Me, and these are written in diary form, all of the Dear Canada series. So we also had Native Nations of the Northwest Coast. Take a look at this one. Northwest Coast Indians. And we had this one here. This is another series that we are using throughout our study. This is S is for Spirit Bear, or British Columbia alphabet. And I've shared before why I really like these books, because they have the great images. They have the alphabet for my preschooler. They have a short little description here for kind of younger children, and then they have more detailed information here. So I really do like these books, and I'm planning to use them throughout our entire year of studies. And this one here goes along with the video that we watched, Canadian Geographic Regions. Okay. This one is a kid's reference guide to Victoria City of Gardens. You can see lots of different information here. Very simple. Now, this is a series that we are using throughout the year as well. Canadian Aboriginal Art and Culture. This is the Salish one. These are all set up in the same format. And then this is the Haida one. And then this one here, Nowhere Else on Earth, Standing Tall for the Great Bear Rainforest. It's really interesting. Lots of beautiful pictures in here and very detailed information about the area because it is quite a unique area in the world. If you've actually never heard of spirit bears before, they only live in one place in the world. And they are not polar bears. They are black bears that happen to have white fur. It's very unique. So this one is Hello Humpback. This is a board book with some native art. Very simple. And it's got like a raised texture to some of it. Very beautiful book. We had this one, Vancouver Kids. It's stories in here. Some mostly writing. Another one on the geographic. This is another geographical region, sorry. This is another series that I pick up when I can. Very, very simple. Learn the Colors with Northwest Coast Native Art. Now there's a whole series of these books. We have a few of them. I think we have ABCs and colors and animals. Oh no, this is the color one. So we have the animals and the letters, I think. Really simple and beautiful. Really love the artwork. And that's a board book as well. And then our Emily Carr books. This book I really liked, Emily Carr Collected, because it had lots of her artwork in it. Really beautiful works. This one is a Amazing Stories Emily Carr, and it is more written like a story about her life and such. This one is Emily Carr at the Edge of the World. And again, it has pictures in it, some of her works, and then it has the story on this side about her life. This one is the first book of Canadian art, so there's Emily Carr inside here, along with a number of other artists. To give you an idea here. So that was Emily Carr. Here, very distinctive artwork. And then also had Embracing Canada, landscapes from Craigoff to the Group of Seven. And there's a section in here about Emily Carr as well. I'll show you what this looks like. So this has quite a few in it. Different artists, and I think it was somewhere around here. No, maybe not. Emily Carr was in here. Oh, 166. There we go. So Emily Carr showing some of her paintings and then writing about her art and her life. So those were all the books that we used. Now I found this series when I was looking for videos about British Columbia called Raven Tales, and they are native stories that are animated. And so we picked up a whole bunch of them. The kids have watched some, they haven't watched others, but I thought I'd just show you real quick kind of what they look like. They're short, they're usually about half an hour or so, but they're based on different stories and legends. as well as kind of more traditional ways and such. Interesting for kids, just reinforcing some of the stuff we're learning. Some of the like eagle and raven that appear many times in the stories. There you go. So that is that series there. So for their art project, one of the things Emily Carr was really interested in was totem poles. And so she ended up trying to sketch or to capture as many totem poles as she could that she came across. So we decided to make our own totem pole. So each child had to choose an animal. They had to negotiate, kind of make sure there wasn't going to be double. And then they made it out of paper and we put it together. And so I'll show you a picture of what it looks like here. I'll link down below where I got the idea for this because the teacher, who's a 4th grade teacher, has a lot of resources available on his website, lots of pictures of how his students has turned out over the years. And also there's even a PowerPoint and a lesson plan that goes along with it that you can use. So hopefully that answers your questions. We had other little games and resources, things like flags and such that we put up on the map. But if I've missed anything, if you have any questions, please leave them down below and I will answer them for you. Otherwise, I hope that you're having a great day. Take care. I forgot to mention as well that we actually made Nanaimo bars. If you haven't ever heard of Nanaimo bars, I'll put a link down below to the recipe. They are said to have been created in Nanaimo, British Columbia, and they are delicious. I'll share a picture of what it looks like when we made them as well. We are going to try and do this with each province and territory as well, try and kind of find something that's more local food-wise and give it a try. So I hope you give Nanaimo bars a try. If you do, let me know.